The book, The Tale of the Dueling Neurosurgeons, highlights many experiments and clinical cases which resulted in early scientists learning about the function of the brain. One specific section in the book is called Functions of the Right Brain versus Left Brain, and it delves into the clinical case of WJ. The backstory to this clinical case has to do with a traumatic incident that occurred to 30-year-old American officer WJ. WJ fell out of an airplane, broke his leg, and then went unconscious. Not long after this incident, WJ got cracked on the skull by a rifle butt. He suffered a brain hemorrhage due to this blow to the head. These incidents caused WJ to have absences, which lead to selective deficits in consciousness. This was evident as WJ would start his car, travel 50 miles away, and have no idea how he got there. He also started having seizures. He would sometimes have about 20 seizures a day. To help him control this, WJ went to 2 LA brain surgeons. The surgeons cut out his corpus callosum. The corpus callosum contributes to the spread of seizure impulses from one side of the brain to the other. Therefore, this surgery eradicated seizures from occurring. There was no side effects that occurred. WJ had a full recovery. Following the surgery, the surgeons asked Roger Sperry to test WJ to identify the long-term effects of having a severed corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is the largest connective pathway in the human brain. This structure is made up of more than 200 nerve fibers that connect the left and right hemispheres. The corpus callosum is the largest commissural fiber in the brain. Commissural fibers connect both hemispheres of the brain horizontally, which is what allows for communication between the two. Each hemisphere of the brain is specialized to control movement and feeling in the opposite half of the body, and each hemisphere specializes in processing certain types of information. For example, the left side of the brain is responsible for producing language, while the right side of the brain is responsible for producing emotions. When the corpus callosum is severed, the new state of the person's brain is considered to be split brain. Without having this main connector, which allows communication between the right and left hemispheres of the brain, each side of the brain can only communicate with the opposite side of the body. For example, images seen on the right side went to the left side of the brain, and WJ verbalized that he could see it, and he also hit the button indicating that he could see it. Images seen on the left side went to the right side of the brain, and he verbally denied seeing anything, but his hand still pressed the button indicating that he could see it. Since the left side of the brain is responsible for producing language, while the right side is not, when the image was projected into the right side of the brain, a verbal response could not be produced, but his motor abilities were still intact in order to press the button confirming that he saw it. This was determined to be due to the right side of the brain not having the ability to produce language, resulting in WJ not being able to say that he saw it. In conclusion, Sperry did not believe that WJ had no side effects from his split brain procedure, which resulted in Sperry experimenting on WJ. After performing an experiment, which consisted of flashing different images to different fields of view, he was able to determine that the 2 hemispheres of the brain could not communicate with each other due to the severed corpus callosum. Sperry concluded that each hemisphere of the brain functions independently and that each have specialized functions. For example, the right side of the brain is responsible for expression, emotional intelligence, and imagination, while the left side of the brain is responsible for language, numbers, and analytical thinking. He went on to research further that human beings are of 2 minds. Previously, scientists understood that the corpus callosum only had one ability, which was to spread seizures. After this experiment, it was found that the corpus callosum is responsible for the communication between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. This clinical case was ethical. This is because WJ was given autonomy and decided with his own will to participate and continue with the testing after his recovery. Also, he was not harmed in the duration of the clinical case. His corpus callosum was severed with his knowing and intent, with the purpose of eradicating his seizures. This case is also seen to be ethical as it produced results that benefited the whole of the world's population, for it revealed function of the corpus callosum and the 2 hemispheres of the brain, which was previously unknown. This clinical case could be repeated today as a follow-up of a split brain procedure, which occurred for the benefit of the patient.